What's up, everybody? This is Corey, CheekyCP, and this is how I made this beat. This is my track sampling Tame Impala, and here we go. All right. So let's break this beat down. So this week was fun. Tame Impala is a dope band. I listened to like every one of their albums. And the first two albums are just crazy good and super reverby and wet. And that third album of theirs, I don't know what it's called. It looks like it has like a marble on the top of it or at the front of it, whatever. That album was the one that I found some stuff that was less guitar centric and a little bit more like synth based. And basically what I did was I just went kind of like old school Dilla-esque going on here, where I just took a million different chops and then just played around with the beat. So let me see if I can actually find the chops that I made. This could be it. Who knows? Let's find out. So let me show you the sample. So the beat I sampled was called "'Cause I'm a Man." And it's like a really slow song. It's really interesting. And let me pull it up. It is this sample right here. And let me get back to the track and let's see if we can play it. So, okay, I'm not sure if you can hear that. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what Beatmaker 3 allows you to do is essentially take any sample. Here's the sample. And you could really quick just click auto slice, and you could choose how many slices you want to have it chop it up into. And you could just bump it up to the highest amount of pads that there are. There are 64 pads here. So you do auto chop 64 pads. And then what you can do is go in to each chop and move where it says 1 on the left-hand side and 1 on the right-hand side. I can actually move that left and right and really just find the start of each little chop of what I thought sounds good. So I went through all 64 and just listened. But my goal was to find bass kicks and to find snares. So you could hear a lot of these chops are snare heavy, but then you could hear like all the other transients that are included with it, right? So you get this kind of like Dilla feel after a while, right? but the cool thing is this will map it automatically to the pads, and then you get to be creative. So I spent like a little bit of time just kind of breaking down, you know, these different samples until I found something that sounded really good. And I found that, which is a really good kick. And it sounded like he was saying time, and then another snare here. And then, so I just kind of built the beat really simple. I love the singer's voice. And I think Piso mentioned that he like reminded him of like old school Beatles. I don't know why. Some of their older albums kind of have that like John Lennon-esque type of feel to the vocal samples. So I just played this out, and actually if I solo this right now, you can actually see the pattern that it is. It's really not crazy at all. It's just pretty simple. So that's the main part of the sample, and at the very end of the sample, I kind of turn the beat around. So that's just the loop, and it's that's an 8-bar loop. And then what I did was I added drums to it. So we were talking about this before. You find a really good sample, as just like a lover of beats, I would let that rock, and I could listen to that over and over and over. But I had to leave room for a vocalist. So I basically took that same sample, put some filters on it. I put a low pass filter on it. And then I let the high pass bleed through. And that's actually something you could hear here. Listen. So every time you hear like a little bit accent, that's the version that has all the highs included with it playing through. So you have the low pass where it's like low enough where a vocalist you'll still be able to hear him over that part of the song. And then really I took this week to kind of play around with different techniques I don't mess with, and I kind of just try to figure it out. So the technique that I focused on was just playing stuff out on MIDI, and then taking the audio, bouncing it down, and then reversing it. So you'll see 2 tracks that say reverse piano. Another one was like a pads instrument that I reversed. So when you listen to it, you kind of get this. So I pushed that back in the track, and really the chords are just accenting what I heard from what I played in the chops. So you get, you know, the sample alone sounds great, but with this accented in the back, you could almost build the track just kind of like reimagine the track just with your own instruments. So I'm going to show you exactly what that might sound like if you were saying like, okay, I took this sample, now I want to remove the sample altogether. It could sound something like this. Some people have talked about, well, how do I get past like a beat block? One way to do that is to play around with samples, get inspiration with what you make, and then remove those samples altogether. And you could kind of imagine what that might sound like. This is kind of showing you what that could be, because right there I played the track without any of the samples, but all of the instrumentation was kind of birthed from, you know, the track itself. I did play bass on this track. So it has like a bouncy feel and like a happy feel, but like without the sample, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, kind of funny altogether. But with the sample included, all of those elements really accent everything. Okay, so the last part of the song was just a completely separate beat idea that I wanted to incorporate as kind of like an outro. And I, again, did the same exact thing. I took all those chops and I just found the regions that sounded really good. This bass drum here, this third chop, is the bulk of what's happening here. So. So I wanted to kind of build that out a little bit more, but I thought it would sound good as an outro because it's a different feel altogether. Yeah, and what else did I do here? I just did kind of like just some keys, like Twinkle Twinkle in the background. You could hear that here. But that's it. That's how I made the beat. So